Okay, so we've got some massive trade rumors heating up around a star edge rusher, and honestly, the Cowboys are right in the mix. I'm talking about Max Crosby potentially leaving the Raiders, and look, this could completely change our defensive outlook if it happens. But the main question is what a realistic trade package would look like, and whether this actually makes sense to us or not. What's up, Cowboys? Welcome to the NFL Playbook Cowboys. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. This channel is all about breaking down everything you need to know about the America's team. So before we jump into the Crosby situation, I want to talk about something that's been on my mind. I came across this really interesting breakdown looking at free agent spending from last offseason in 2025. You had the New England Patriots way out in front, spending the most money, followed by the Minnesota Vikings and the Seattle Seahawks. And you know what's interesting? Two of the top three spenders made it to the Super Bowl. So you'd think, okay, spend big in free agency and you win, right? But then you look at the rest of that list. You've got the Giants, the Bengals, the Carolina Panthers, even the Arizona Cardinals in the top 7 or so. Those teams spent big and didn't get anywhere close to playoff success. I mean, it's pretty clear that just throwing money around in free agency doesn't guarantee anything. And if you go to the bottom of that spending list, you find successful teams like the Niners and the Eagles who spent very little, but you also find bad teams like the Browns down there too. So what's the takeaway? It's pretty simple, honestly. You've got to work smarter, not harder. Just because you're dropping massive amounts of cash doesn't mean you're making good moves. You have to spend appropriately, get the best players possible for the dollars you're investing. The Cowboys ranked 20th in free agent spending last offseason, and a big chunk of that was re-signing our own guys. I mean, we had the Deron Bland deal, the Tyler Smith extension, the Jake Ferguson contract, those types of moves. We didn't go out and do anything crazy in terms of adding outside free agents, so I think the Cowboys could probably afford to spend a little bit more. We've been in the bottom third of the league for a long time now, and I feel like the front office leans a little too much toward this whole we want to be smart with our spending mentality. At least that's what they say publicly. I don't mind being aggressive every once in a while, you know? I think you do need to take a shot or two. Obviously, you want to avoid a complete debacle like the Cleveland Browns or the Deshaun Watson trade, but I do think at times you need to be aggressive. They did that with Pickens, and it worked out well. Hopefully they extend him to a good deal for his future with the Cowboys. And here's where it gets really interesting for this offseason. Because of the Micah Parsons trade, we've got a little bit more flexibility. Hopefully the front office takes advantage of it smartly, but also aggressively. Now let's get into the big news that's been making waves. This came from the underdog NFL Jay Glazer, who reported via Yahoo Sports, and we've got multiple sources confirming this. Jay Glazer reported that Max Crosby, the outstanding Las Vegas Raiders edge defender, his time with the Raiders is most likely done and he wants out. This is a follow-up to what we heard toward the end of the 2025 season when the Raiders basically shut him down and said, listen, you're not playing anymore. We want to make sure we get the #1 overall pick. Crosby was not happy with that at all. He's been linked to a ton of teams for potential trades, and the Dallas Cowboys are, of course, among them. There were actually reports that the Cowboys had inquired about Max Crosby during the trade deadline just a few months ago before we ended up getting Quinnen Williams and adding him to the roster. So this is obviously a big opportunity for Dallas, right? There's going to be multiple teams inquiring about Crosby, trying to see if they can get him because he's a star player. But here's where we have to be smart. It's all about what you surrender in a potential deal. There are reports that the Raiders are asking for, from a baseline perspective, what the Cowboys got when they received for the Micah Parsons deal way back last preseason. That was Kenny Clark, a starter, and 2 first-round picks. I don't think a single team in the National Football League is going to surrender that package. The Packers' case was kind of an interesting one-off situation. They were a talented team in their mind that was in the middle of a championship window. They had cap space, they were willing to make a bold, aggressive move, and how the season ended up for them, they finished as the 7 seed, mainly because they got top-heavy and had some injuries. One and done in the postseason, they don't have a first-round pick this year or next year, they've got looming cap issues. I don't think very many teams want to be in the Packers' situation from a roster building perspective. I mean, there's maybe a team here or there, maybe the Broncos or the Eagles or something like that feel like they're in the middle of a championship window, and I could see them going all in and surrendering a bunch of future first-round picks. But those moves are few and far between. So that speaks to what the Cowboys could actually do in terms of acquiring the Raiders' defensive end. I went to PFF's mock draft simulator, and I like using their simulator because they use raw
raw analytics, contract dollars, all different data points to come up with trade scenarios that could actually be accepted by both teams. It's not just some person's opinion about what they think a team will take. This is raw data, raw historical information. So what would the Cowboys have to give up for Crosby? It would be tackle Terrence Steele and pick number 20 in this upcoming NFL draft. The PFF simulator says both sides would take that deal, and I think this actually is a deal that would make the most sense for both teams. The Raiders, ironically enough, push come to shove, if they felt like they had to trade Crosby, would take this deal. They need offensive line help, specifically run blocking. They want to be a run blocking team. Terrence Steele's future with the Dallas Cowboys is in question because of salary cap constraints. The Raiders have a ton of salary cap space. They could easily absorb Steele, shipping him over from Dallas, and they would get a first-round pick, number 20 selection in this draft, paired with their number 1 overall pick. The Cowboys, of course, would get Max Crosby, and that would basically eliminate the need to have that number 20 overall pick focused on edge rusher. You could go linebacker, you could go cornerback, you could even explore some offensive options. You've got flexibility with that pick now. Plus, you're adding an elite edge rusher to pair with Quinnen Williams, Osa Odigizua, and Marshawn Mealand. I mean, that's a pretty formidable defensive line rotation. Now, would this trade actually happen? I'm being realistic here. I give it maybe a 10 to 15% chance. The main issue is that the Raiders would want to get as maximum as possible, like probably 2 first-round picks and a starter. My mind doesn't accept that they will agree on 1 first-rounder. And another thing is, there would be many other teams ready to offer something a little bit more, like a first-round pick, a second-round pick, and a starter. So the only thing that is important is the starter. Who do the Raiders actually believe will work for them? And I guess they will decide on this particular thing. So I am hopeful that the Cowboys will take some action, they will be aggressive, and they will spend some extra money to improve their chances of playoffs. Guys, what do you think about this? Share your thoughts in the comments section.